Testing. Do your test.
Testing. One,
No, just
two.
talk normal.
Oh.
Okay. How do we start?
Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent.
I was on Tinder.
Yeah, Greg was on Tinder for a while, and I was considering doing Tinder here in Vancouver, but the problem with Vancouver is everyone knows everyone. So I was in Anaheim for work, and one night I downloaded Tinder and matched with Greg.
Wait, why did you swipe right?
Because I thought you were cute.
I swiped right because I
And
had
you like jazz.
I swiped right because I had a thing for
Bridesmaids. And my profile picture was a bridesmaid. And then I think I was like chatting with like a few people. But then Greg was the first person to ask me like to go out or like do something.
So we met up in Anaheim.
Yeah, we had dinner at the packing district.
I didn't know going into the date that you were Canadian.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when I found out that you were only in town for a week, I was like, I have to see you sooner and as much as possible.
Yeah. And yeah, we did see each other a lot that week.
So I came late and you still were on a work call.
Yeah, I was on a work call.
You saw me walk in while you were on the call.
Mm-hmm.
What were your first thoughts?
No, I'm glad he's not shorter than me.
So how did we end up here?
Well, we just came from the,
Okay, so we're coming up to your 1 year anniversary, if you can call it an anniversary, because you don't really celebrate this, but of your cancer diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna show you pictures, and you're gonna just tell me what the significance of the picture is and what you remember from the picture, if there's any like interesting memories in the past. This one.
That was at Pike Place Market in Seattle, and that was like the first trip you took up to Vancouver after we had met in LA. It was kind of like the trip that solidified that we were, I guess, like serious about doing the long distance thing. You met my mom. I think you met my dad too.
Yeah.
And then we were just supposed to go for dinner, like just us, like so probably you, me, and Iris. And then in the car, my mom's all like,
No, you had to make a reservation. I thought it was just gonna be you, me, and your mom. And then when you made the reservation, you're like, yeah, reservation for 15? I was like, why 15?
and I was like, oh, my mom
Oh,
invited
my
her siblings.
My whole family's coming.
And my cousins. So, yeah, you were a good sport.
How about this one?
That one was when you, like, formally proposed. So Greg and I were already talking about getting married for a while, just because it's kind of like when you're doing long distance, you have to have that conversation probably much sooner than most people.
I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.
Especially in our case, because there's like sponsorship and all that stuff that goes on. The day before you formally proposed, we had already gone to St. Augustine and met with the priest and signed up for marriage prep. And we were engaged, but like you didn't formally give me like a ring or anything, but I was fine without having a ring. But then you put a cherry on top by getting a ring and proposing.
So I could take the ring back and return.
No.
This is our whole wedding party.
Yeah, so our whole wedding party were like literally our immediate families. which is really common now when you think about it.
Because of the pandemic.
Back then, it was really difficult to, especially to explain to my mom, because we were getting married in Vancouver, that the wedding was gonna be small and just us. Like
No party of 15 this time.
yeah, it's just us kind of thing. That was probably during wedding vows, and Greg had really good wedding vows, and everyone, there's no dry eye in the church.
Even after the wedding, we were still doing the long distance thing.
Oh yeah, so like we got married in August, and then we were long distance until like February of 2019. So, yeah.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So last summer, like probably starting like end of July, I kept getting sick. So it started off with eating, we thought it was like bad food court food.
Food poisoning.
Food poisoning.
You don't look very well, Annie. I feel fine. Are you sure it wasn't that gray kind of lamb, or you ate a lot of that weird chicken? Was it that? No. I feel fine.
And like it was a week where I had no strength, and like I was vomiting. I was just so sick, and I'd never gotten food poisoning that bad before, and I assumed that I wasn't feeling well for quite a while after that, because I just never bounced back from this like bout of food poisoning. I was starting to get really fatigued, like going up the stairs, I would be like out of breath. Standing in front of the mirror just to do like makeup, I'd have to get like a stool and like sit down. I remember I had no color in my face, so I was always trying to look for like a nice lipstick to wear, so I would have like a little bit like a flush of like rosiness, I guess. So I thought, because I had donated, when I donate blood here, sometimes they don't allow me to because my iron is too low, and this is why like I'm feeling this way or like whatever. So I took an economical route and went online and ordered my own blood work.
You couldn't go to the doctor because you weren't covered under my insurance yet.
Yeah, so technically, like, because I'm still waiting for my green card. So I was in America as a tourist, so I had travel insurance. But the deductible on it was like $300. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to urgent care. They're going to tell me to do blood work, and they're just going to tell me, oh, your iron is low, you know, eat a steak, eat some liver, here's some pills, or whatever. The economical route was to pay the $50 and get my own blood work done and diagnose myself, basically. So that's what I did.
Dr. Harris,
Yes?
do you concur
Concur with what, sir?
with what Dr. Ashland just said? Do you concur?
I went on a Monday morning, and then by Tuesday morning, they emailed me the results. And the people who had done the lab work, they were trying to get a hold of me because my results for my hemoglobin were like 3.4.
No, but you sent me a copy of the results, and I was already anxious because I didn't know what was going on. I have a couple of doctor friends, and I was able to get a hold of my friend Walter, and I asked him if he could take a look at it. I know he's not a hematologist, but if you know any basic knowledge about what these results mean, he's like, why is her hemoglobin so low? And then I was like, I don't know, what does that mean? And then what it should have been is 12. 10 to 12 is the normal range. You were at 3.
Yeah.
And
3.9
Walter-
or something.
Walter was like, how is she still walking? How, like,
His
a
quote.
normal person would get really weak and faint when they get below 10, and she's already at a 3. So I'm at work, and I'm like going back and forth between work and chatting with Walter, trying to figure out what's going on. Like slowly, my panic level is building. But this is the message that kind of got me out of my seat and to call you and ask you what you were doing and what were you doing at the time.
Wait, so Walter's text message said, like, that's not compatible with life, so meaning I should have been dead or something. But that week, my mom was visiting me in LA for the first time since I, like, moved. So I was really powering through, like, the week because I wanted to take my mom around and, like, you know, show her like all my favorite food places and stuff like that. We went grocery shopping and then I was driving, and then so when Greg called me, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm at lunch with the moms and stuff like that, and this is already like a few hours after getting the results.
I was like, well, you need to go now. She's like, let us finish lunch first. I was like, no.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
So like the parents were having like a really good time, so I had to like interrupt, and when I got to urgent care, they pricked me again, and they found that my hemoglobin this time was even lower than like the results from the day before. So then the doctor at urgent care asked me one, like, have you ever fainted? Like did you ever faint or anything like that? And I was just telling him, like, no, like, I'm just really tired. And I thought, like, it was so hot all the time. So I always thought, like, oh, like, I'm just not tolerating the heat very well. So he said, like, you have to go to emergency, you need a blood transfusion, you're not allowed to drive there. So it's either someone drives you to emergency or we'll have to call you an ambulance. And we complain here in BC that ambulances cost $90 when you get one, but in America, apparently it's like thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So I knew, like, X-nay on the ambulance. So then, luckily, Mommy was there, and she drove us to Whittier, and I went into emergency right away.
So this is the picture after I got out of work, and I came to see you. We still didn't know what was going on, but
was I already getting a
work.
Transfusion?
No, not
at
yet.
this point, no. I remember at one point a lady comes, like, they obviously get all my travel insurance information, but at one point a lady comes and asks for a credit card, as like you get charged on your credit card like a flat rate of like $500 or something like that. And then, like, it was so awkward because I'm like in the bed and like Greg was there, so he gave his credit card, but that's something that was very new.
That's
and
American.
Odd to me.
Very American. Because I have my own story. When did you start suspecting that it is what it was?
So I was admitted into the hospital on Tuesday, and then Thursday was when I did my very first bone marrow biopsy. But the hematologist had told us on the Wednesday that in my peripheral blood, so like the regular blood that's like flowing through me, that they could see blasts. So
blasts are
like cancerous cells?
No, they're immature.
They're immature
blood cells.
Blood cells, yeah, which is uncommon, I guess. So then all you have to do is go on Google and put like blasts, peripheral blood, low hemoglobin, you know, all the things that I was experiencing. And, you know, like, obviously leukemia was one of the things that would come up. But then in my mind, until like the hematologist actually said like you have ALL or whatever, for some reason in my mind, like, things were still rosy, and, you know, in my head I was like, oh, this is all a mistake, like, you know, they're gonna come back and they're gonna say, like, you know, oh, we made a mistake, oops. here's some iron pills, you can go home.
So before I left work, Walter said based off of your results, he was like, you need to go to the doctor and you need to get a bone marrow biopsy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I Googled too. I was like, why would someone need a bone marrow biopsy?
Yeah.
And leukemia comes up. But I didn't want to say it. I thought I'd jinx something, or I was like, yeah, it's probably something else. So I when I saw you in that bed, I already knew what needed to happen, and I was kind of curious as to why they wouldn't do it right away, because I wanted to find out really quick. But I also was like, maybe if they don't do it, then you don't have it.
So you were like,
but anyway, so like that, I automatically like ruled that out in my head just to protect myself mentally. So then they moved you to ICU, and then they moved you to another unit, and like I wasn't really paying attention, but I'd sleep at the hospital with you, and then I was hungry, so I went to the hospital cafeteria, and I was there with another guy. He was in the elevator with me. He recognized me because he's seen me around, like walking around the hallways, and he's like, "Who are you visiting?" And I was like, "Oh, my wife." And he's like, "Oh, okay. What kind of cancer is it?" And I was like,
what?
I was like,
I don't know the story.
It's not. I was like, "What do you?" I was like, "It's not cancer." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "You're lucky." And I was like, "Okay." So that kind of shocked me, and then the elevator doors opened as we got to the floor, and he walks out, and I walk out, and then I look up, and then the unit is like oncology, and I was like, shit.
Why was it an oncology
It
ward?
was like a cancer ward or something. Yeah.
Oh,
it was,
really? I
it
didn't
was
even know that.
oncology.
I didn't realize I was in an oncology ward.
So this was before the
Diagnosis.
official diagnosis.
But I was in that ward already.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was an oncology ward.
Yeah.
I never noticed. Interesting.
So then we had to wait for results, which was kind of frustrating because it was taking so long.
Yeah.
But what do you remember about the doctor giving us the diagnosis?
I think that was like the first time I cried since we got to the hospital. Like, I remember, like, in terms of like coping with the diagnosis, was that morning. It was me, Greg, my mom, Greg's mom, and then our tita Cora, who was visiting. And then I remember, like, he told us the diagnosis, and we all kind of processed it because
Because it's a huge
it's
thing
a
to
huge
process.
thing, and like we were obviously very emotional and whatnot. But then it became like this wave of friends and family coming by to visit, like at lunchtime. So it became very difficult to kind of like process, I guess. And I remember like when I told everyone, there was like, I feel like there was like 15 people in the room. It was easy to kind of forget about like my diagnosis that day because there was a lot of distractions because a lot of people came to visit. And then our last visitors for the day was like Jerry and Ryan. And then I remember like after they left, like just crying like a lot that night.
Was I there?
Yeah, you were there.
No, well, not when you were crying a lot.
Yeah, you were there. We were.
Oh, like,
remember
not,
we slept
not
on
immediately
the.
after.
We slept
but,
on
yeah.
the little like cot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember you were like, "Oh, you don't have cancer. We have cancer."
That was the night before.
Yeah, we took the plane back to Vancouver.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
What is this?
So that's the private jet we took. So with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, you need to start chemo and treatment right away because it's acute, so it progresses really quickly. So then they really expedited sending me back to Vancouver so that I could continue with treatment. The hematologist and like the case manager at the Whittier Hospital, like I think they really advocated for the fact that like, okay, she's immunocompromised and she can't fly commercially, so she needs like an air ambulance to fly back to Vancouver. And part of it too is as soon as I'm back here in Vancouver, the insurance company is off the hook for
Everything.
all the expenses and whatnot. So, you know, as crazy as it seems to pay like thousands and thousands of dollars for a private air ambulance to come back, it was still the more economical, I guess, option for the insurance company.
We'll take it!
That's my Hickman line. So for September up until like just a month ago, I had this tube that stuck out of my chest, and there were 3 lumens on it, and it's what they took blood products. It's like they would take my blood products out of it. They would give me blood products like blood transfusions, platelet transfusions, hydration, nutrition, if my magnesium or potassium was low, antibiotics. So the whole purpose of that was to like easy access in and out, and it prevents them from having to prick me so often and like ruining my veins. So yeah.
What was it like? What is it like having that or getting that installed, like mentally?
It was really painful, like the recovery. It was probably the most physically painful part of like the process, I guess. But it's also like a physical reminder of like you're not normal. So like when you undress to shower, you have this thing dangling, and then you have to like wrap it up and then tape it to your body and stuff like that. Or like when you're sleeping, it's there and whatnot. You feel not bionic, but like it's just, you know, it's just a reminder that you're not normal.
It's not tanning, like. Yeah,
and like the skin, like I don't know if you can see it, but it's like pale now, but it will get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My
first day of chemo.
So obviously kind of nervous because
I think this is the first time you had the machine attached to you.
Yeah, because they have to like hydrate you. But you know, you watch it, you see how it's portrayed in movies and whatnot. So in my mind, I was like, oh, after my first chemo, I'm gonna be puking and nausea and all my hair is gonna fall out, kind of thing. But it's actually, receiving the chemo itself is actually kind of underwhelming because it's really just a transfusion. They give you medications to kind of offset the side effects, and then the more drastic side effects, like losing your hair and whatnot, is more of like a progression.
And then, what video is this?
It's a video of like the first time the chemo like entered my body, and it's crazy that chemo like destroys so much of your body, but it's also there to save you at the same time, because like obviously it can't distinguish what cells are good and what cells are bad, so it just kind of wipes everything out. And then it's also funny because when the nurses give it to you, they're like in full garb, like they wear like a mask, and then they wear like this, like it looks like a hazmat suit and stuff like that, and you're just like sitting there like about to like allow this, you know, stuff enter your body kind of thing.
Hey, thanks guys. That was a close one.
If you could tell the person in this video something, what would it be?
Take it one day at a time, because it's a long like treatment is so long. It's like spanned out almost a year, and we're still kind of in the throes of recovery after my transplant. So it's a very long process, and take it one day at a time. I kind of wish I did more like journaling, or like wrote down what happened on certain days, because it's just, there are moments where it's just kind of like a blur, but at the same time it's like it's kind of like traumatic, so you also don't want to remember. And it's nothing exciting. It'll be like, today I puked. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, you could have a really good day where I'm like, oh look, I did 10,000 steps, you know, and then go through a week where you're like in bed the whole time. It swings a lot, and it's okay if it's like a, you know, enjoy the days that you feel really good and you have the energy, but then also the days that are really crappy, those days will happen, and it's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself, because I think I was really hard on myself when I'd have those bad days.
What's the difference between your POV now versus then?
Point of view of like life?
Yeah.
I think just, I don't know. I think just enjoying the little things, because when you're in the throes of chemotherapy, it's like the things you celebrate are like having a good bowel movement or getting 8 hours of sleep, and like these are so simple and like so like as a normal healthy person you don't realize like what that means for someone who might be really ill, kind of thing. Or like, oh, I was able to like keep my food down today or something like that. So like, so when those things are working out for me right now, you know, like something as simple as, you know, finding, you know, a $5 bill at the bottom of my bag is like a big deal. So it's like, maybe my point of view is like, I don't know, like really small things really do bring a lot of joy now, I guess.
I don't need to be sick to enjoy a good bowel movement.
Come on then. Come on then. Very good. Push. Push.
How about you?
The one day at a time thing is good. If I can tell myself that, that would help a lot, because it kind of manage your expectations a little bit, because each day is different. Because if you have a bad day one day, then the next day could be totally different. It could be a good day. At the same time, if you have a good day and you're expecting another good day tomorrow,
you could be
could
really
be
disappointed.
So it's just day by day.
Yeah.
One thing that is that I'm curious to know, and I'm almost scared to talk about it because it's like scary to think about, but like, what is it like coming to grasps with your possible, like, what is it like thinking about like dying and possible your mortality?
I try not to think about it too much, and if anything, I still have more like anxiety and fear about losing the people around me, if that makes sense. So like when I think of like you know, my parents being older or like those kind of things, those things cause me like more like anxiety than me. I try to think of things like, when I think about it, I think like, oh, at my funeral, I'd like a food truck with like really good food, and I want like a DJ to play really good music. Basically, to have the wedding reception we didn't have. And it might be like really little, but it's like, I don't know. It's like when you kind of deal with your when you have to deal with your own mortality, it's like, I try not to think of death itself, but more like the life beforehand. Or the life that happened leading up to your death. So.
But because you come across it almost often, because when you go to clinic and you see some fellow cancer survivors or people going through treatment, you kind of get to know some faces. And then,
yeah, it's hard because then because through this journey, like, I've met people at clinic who like are no longer with us, or like, you know, combing through the internet and like finding people online who've gone through like ALL or like types of leukemia and like bone marrow transplants and whatnot, you know, it's hard because not everyone will be as lucky as us in terms of just like, you know, in terms of the swing, you know, our bad days may not be as bad compared to like other people. So in surviving and like being able to enjoy life still, there is also like a lot of guilt that I experience sometimes. So sometimes it's also not cutting out, but like not, I need to take a break from like the BMT forums and all that stuff, because then it just feeds like the anxiety of like survivorship guilt or whatever, survivor's guilt. Because, you know, stem cell transplants, chemo and whatnot can also have a lot of long-term effects. And yeah, and we're still in the short term because, you know, things could still crop up for me, such as like cancer again or like chronic GVHD and whatnot. But there definitely can be guilt around, you know, progressing in a positive direction, I guess. So, yeah.
If you could tell someone who has just been diagnosed with cancer, what would you tell them?
Set boundaries for yourself. You know, it's hard enough to cope with the diagnosis, but then sometimes you have to comfort people around you, which becomes very difficult. So know when to set boundaries. It's okay if you don't want to see people, or if you realize certain people aren't good for your well-being, I guess. Follow the cancer patient on Instagram because it sucks, but it's good to have humor, and following that page kind of allowed me to laugh at my predicament, but knowing that you're not alone. For me, at least, like what I found a lot of comfort from was like meeting people online, so with similar diagnosis, and like kind of reaching out to them and finding out what they were going through and whatnot, but also not comparing because, you know, protocols are so different. But it was nice to meet those people and make those friends, and just embrace the bad stuff also. Like, I don't want to say be positive because that's like not helpful at all, but just kind of let yourself feel the good and the bad is probably what I'd say. How about you as a caregiver of someone who is going through cancer?
I said take one day at a time, but also maybe something I didn't say yet is don't forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I think that was like a worry of mine because you were coming here and you were kind of being pulled away from your support system. But I think we found our support system here, right? Yeah.
Throughout this whole time, I've been just chronicling things as they happen each day. So we'll be able to go back in time and kind of digest what happened.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's helpful to others.
Trust me, everything's gonna be fine.